Hello everybody and welcome to the Online Sociologist. My name is Ryan. In this video, I want to get down to basics and talk about two of the most foundational concepts in sociology, which are social interactions and social processes. While the definitions of these concepts are straightforward, they are positioned differently depending on the different sociological theorists who use them. Therefore, in this video, I not only want to define the concepts and their different forms, but look at the different ways in which scholars have used them based on their sociological approach. Ultimately, however, when delving into these terms, I'm basing much of this analysis on the 1979 article by Panos Bardis entitled Social Interaction and Social Processes that was published in the journal Social Science. Bardis considers some of these differences and provides not only clear definitions and examples, but a typology of the different kinds of social processes. But before getting into this, I want to invite you to like and subscribe to the Online Sociologist if you want to see more content related to the world of sociology and how it can be applied not only in the classroom, but in your everyday lives. I want to begin this video by looking at the early distinctions in how sociologists studied social processes. These distinctions were made early on and highlighted in the 1921 book Introduction to the Science of Sociology by the University of Chicago sociologists Robert E. Park and Ernest Burgess. In the book, they differentiate those looking at social processes into the realists and the nominalists. The realists, represented by early sociologists such as Georg Simmel, Albion Small, and Gustav Ratzenhofer, saw society from the bottom up, meaning stemming from social interactions and processes. As Park and Burgess note, quote, they are realists at any rate, insofar as they think of the members of society as bound together in a system of mutual influences which has sufficient character to be described as a process, unquote. This was in opposition to other sociologists like Gabriel Tarde and Franklin Henry Giddings, whom the authors noted were nominalists, or who thought of society as a mere collection of individuals and who emphasized the individual's independence from society. Since the time of Park and Burgess's book, sociologists have analyzed social interactions and processes in different ways. Those using the structural functionalist approach see society as a complex system made up of different interacting parts. In other words, they visualize social processes as part of a larger totality and concentrate on those processes, emphasizing cooperation and stability. Those using a conflict theory approach that emphasizes conflict, change, oppression, and power would also focus on processes related to that. Finally, while structural functionalists and conflict theorists might be looking at social processes on a much larger scale, that this isn't the same for symbolic interactionists. Instead, symbolic interactionists focus on more minute social processes between individuals and smaller groups. Now that we looked at the more abstract ways that different sociologists would study these concepts, I want to move to the more concrete by specifically defining these terms and their subcategories and what constitutes them. In doing so, I will lean heavily on Panos Bardis' article, Social Interaction and Social Processes. Social interaction can be defined as the ways in which different elements in society, whether they be individuals or groups, institutions or systems, act towards and influence one another. Social processes have been defined in many different ways. Some describe it as, quote, a process involved in the creation of groups or people, unquote, while others see it as a consistent relationship in a group of people or institutions. Still others see it as the means by which culture or a social organization change or are preserved. However, Bardis based the term on the definition of social interaction, stating that a social process is, quote, the observable and repetitive pattern of social interaction that has a consistent direction or quality, unquote. Now, depending on the scholar that you read, they will undoubtedly focus on different kinds, forms, and categories of social processes. For example, Park and Burgess in their book defined 4 types of social processes, which were the historical, the cultural, the political, and the economic. Bardis provides readers with 6 different kinds of social processes, which he looks at through 4 distinct forms and that are broken up into 2 categories. The kinds of processes that he notes are acculturation, accommodation, assimilation, cooperation, competition, and conflict. In terms of form, there's intrapersonal, person to group or group to person, and group to group. And when looking at categories, there is the conjunctive, or those social processes that bring people together, and the disjunctive, or those social processes that pull people apart. The first kind of social process Bardis notes is acculturation, which he defines as, quote, a change in the culture of a person or group through direct interaction with other cultures, which results in the acquiring or exchanging of cultural features, unquote. This process of acculturation can take place at the individual or social level. When looking at the individual level, we can imagine a recent immigrant who takes on the pattern of speech or dietary taste of the country that they immigrated to. And looking at the social level, we can imagine the changes that come from when a local society is subsumed into a larger society. Or for a more historical example, the vast uneven changes wrought from industrialization in the 19th century. As Bardis notes, acculturation is more prevalent in more cosmopolitan cities like New York, London, or Hong Kong, as those areas have a wide variety of cultural heterogeneity due to the vastly different groups living there. The second kind of social process is accommodation. This is defined as the mutual adjustments made in the wake of and following group conflict. Moreover, these are adjustments in which the parties concerned work to retain their identity while avoiding open hostilities. As Bardis notes, quote, accommodation is a mixture of prejudice, stereotypes, and friendly interactions that facilitates adaptation to the environment, unquote. Historically, we see such accommodating processes, especially in colonized societies, that come after the colonizer's invasion and before the revolt of the colonized. Or we see these accommodating processes in societies with a long history of inequality, whether it is the racial inequality in the US or the more class-based inequality in Great Britain. The third kind of social process is assimilation. Bardis defines assimilation as, quote, the social absorption of an ethnic, racial, or cultural group or of an immigrant into an adopted society which produces a new, common, and fairly homogeneous culture, unquote. In this process, it is usually the minority group that assimilates or is expected to assimilate into the larger group's ways and customs. Assimilation is carried out through numerous means ranging from military conquest, intermarriage, economic mobility, and education. In the U.S., assimilation can be likened to Americanization, which is the process in which immigrant groups shed cultural features tying them to their homeland and adopting what is seen as American cultural characteristics. An opposing term to Americanization is the melting pot, or multiculturalism, that focuses on and respects cultural diversity as well as the equality of different cultures. Another linked term that Bardis brings up is coercive assimilation, which is defined as the process in which minority groups are pressured to adopt the cultural features of the majority group. While there are numerous examples of this in the history of the U.S., one prominent example of this is the stealing of indigenous American lands up through the early 20th century and combining this with the establishment of schools, such as the Carlisle Indian School, where indigenous children were forcibly sent and forced to discard their own cultural traits and assimilate into what was seen as dominant American cultural traits. The fourth kind of social process is cooperation. This process, as Bardis notes, quote, involves 2 or more individuals or groups that intentionally combine their activities to achieve mutual advantages or common goals which are to be shared by participants, unquote. There are numerous types of cooperation. For example, people can come together organically to ensure their survival by combining their goods and defending themselves in greater numbers from outside elements. Others can base their cooperation on older social norms, such as those working together in a religious organization. Now, sometimes you might not even know the people that you are cooperating with, such as in a highly complex division of labor when you are producing one small part of a larger product. Cooperation can also be directed, such as in the case of group work in school, and it can be coerced, such as in the case of prison labor chain gangs. In all such cases, though, and as Bardis notes, the social process of cooperation is essential for the survival of any society, no matter how big or small. The fifth kind of social process is competition, which can be defined as, quote, the struggle by individuals or groups for the possession and use of goods that are limited or believed to be limited, unquote. Like cooperation, there are numerous types of competition. There can be those competing for the same resources for survival in a given area, while others compete for social status in a particular group. Some compete in cooperative forms, such as team-based sports. It should be noted that competition doesn't always have to be conscious, but it can also be unconscious. As Bardis notes, competition is, quote, directed chiefly towards a goal, not a competitor, unquote. And the sixth kind of social process is conflict, which is defined as, quote, a form of social interaction involving two or more individuals or groups that consciously attempt to thwart one another's goal or to defeat, injure, or even destroy the opponent, unquote. Bardis notes that while conflict is like competition, it is different in that it isn't always guided by rules and can be directed towards inanimate objects. Conflict can come in various forms. For example, different cultures can conflict with one another, as can different classes, races, genders, ethnicities, and religions. Conflict can be overt or covert. Conflict can be destructive, constructive, or both, as in the case of revolutionary social change, through which conflict destroys one social system while building another. So, there you have it. In this video, we focused on social interactions and social processes. Moreover, we looked at the different ways in which scholars analyze social processes, as well as did a deep dive into Panos Bardis' article. Bardis not only defined each concept, but looked at 6 different kinds of social processes, which are acculturation, accommodation, assimilation, cooperation, competition, and conflict. As noted, these 6 social processes in no way exhaust the number of social processes that have arisen throughout human history. I would challenge you to not only read Bardis' article, but use it as a starting point for identifying, observing, and analyzing other forms of social processes. So, let me know what you think of this video in the comments below, and if I missed anything. I want to thank you all for watching this video, and make sure to like and subscribe for more content related to the world of sociology and how it can be used not only in the classroom, but in your everyday lives. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.